Okay, today we're going to talk about one of the cities that I think is a great city for students that want to study in university, especially international students. Now, yesterday, I took a trip to New York City, and one thing if you know about New York City is this is the place where I was born, and I spent time there until I was 15, and then I moved out the area. But for the most part, I guess you could say that I'm a native New Yorker. One thing I want to do is talk about some of the schools that are in New York and why I think that New York can maybe be a good destination for somebody who wants to have the experience of basically just the real world. All right, the good, the bad, and the ugly. So the first thing I want to do is mention about New York City. Okay, difference between New York City and New York State. Now, New York State is very, very big. Quite a few cities in there. The biggest city in New York City is New York City, but there are other cities in there like Buffalo, Syracuse, things like that. All right. Now, New York City is broken down to 5 sections that we call boroughs. So Brooklyn, Queens, Manhattan, the Bronx, and Staten Island. Okay. I originally am from Queens. Queens is kind of heading out a little bit towards the, where I'm from. I'm a little close to the ocean. It's a bit laid out, mostly residential areas. It can get a little, urban in some areas, but mostly residential neighborhoods. Very diverse, people from different nationalities, different races and everything. So that's one good thing. Now, one of the reasons why New York is a good place for university students is number one, the transportation. The transportation system in New York City, it's hectic, but for a hectic city. And there are buses and trains and taxis and Ubers everywhere. So you have no problem getting to where you got to get to. Is there traffic? Yes, there's a lot of traffic there, but you will get to where you got to get there. Number two, like I mentioned before, the diversity. So a lot of different people there, a lot of different nationalities. Most likely, you're going to find your people there. Your people are in New York. All right, so that's one thing. Another thing is let's look at some of the universities, some of the most popular universities in New York. I'm going to mention a few, and then I'm actually going to start doing some breakdown videos of individual universities up there. One of the major ones that we hear about is NYU, New York University. Now, New York University is private. It's in Manhattan, and it's pretty expensive. However, it's a very popular destination, has a lot of good schools within it. And, NYU is definitely one of the flagship universities and pride and joys of the city. We also have Columbia University. Columbia University is in Manhattan as well. It's what we call the Ivy League. Remember, we went over what the Ivy Leagues are. We went over what the Ivies are. All right. The Ivy League colleges are Penn, Columbia, Princeton, Cornell, Brown, Dartmouth, Yale, Harvard. Okay. Those are what we call the Ivy League colleges in America. All right. So Columbia is part of that elite bunch of schools that have a very rich history, history in America, and very well respected schools. Right. So we have Columbia. We have other schools in New York that are great schools that might not get recognition as well. For example, we have a school called Cooper Union. Cooper Union is a small school, primarily engineering in Manhattan. At one point, Cooper Union was tuition free. I think they charge tuition now, but at one point it was tuition free, but mostly for engineering. We have another school in the Bronx called Fordham University. Fordham University is also another pretty popular school, fairly big, and serves a lot of students, has a rich reputation. Another school we have, let's go over to Queens, St. John's University. St. John's University is it's a private school, pretty popular, always has some good sports teams and things like that, but very good university, great programs there. and you'll find a lot of kids from around the world go there. St. John's University. We also have in Queens, we have Queens College. We have Pace in Brooklyn. Now, if we look at, we're talking about the New York City area. Now, if we're talking about the New York surrounding areas, we could also look at some places like on Long Island, which is Nassau, Suffolk County. This is like right outside the city. We have areas, we have schools like Hofstra University, which is in Long Island. We have schools like Stony Brook, and a bunch of other schools, in the area as well. Just naming those as a few, some of the schools you may want to look at. Now, here's some of the bad points which may have you not want to study in New York. And this, I always got to remember, I said I had to talk about the good, the bad. All right. Now, the bad points is that, New York, it is very busy, and, it could frustrate you getting around. Even New Yorkers, they tend to move fast, talk fast, operate fast, because it's probably one of the fastest cities on earth. So a lot of moving parts there. And if you're from a small town and you can't handle that, you really have to mentally prepare yourself. You really have to mentally prepare yourself for a train door opening and hundreds of people coming into the train or hundreds of people leaving. You have to get used to sitting in traffic sometimes for hours for something that might only be 20 minutes away. All right. You have to get used to the living conditions. If you're living on dorms or if you're living in the city, it's a very expensive city to live in. However, if your school is paying for, your tuition and your room and board, then you don't have to worry about it. But, that is an issue with New York City. It's a very expensive city. All right. I used to say that it feels like in New York, you can't breathe. You never have a chance to breathe. And I have a saying that sometimes when New Yorkers don't realize what they're into when they're living there, they only realize it after they leave. So I'm one of the ones that left when I was a kid. I was a teenager, but I still remember vividly everything that was going on. I remember vividly my parents taking me to plays, and I remember the sports I used to do. I remember my friends and everything. So, and that was a different time, and I'm sure some things have changed, but there's still great parts and great experiences that I had in the city, and especially seeing my family where they went to college, and other schools. So I know a little bit about the universities that are there. Now, what does it mean for you? It means that if this is an area that you're looking at, then you need to start right now looking at some of the areas within New York City, or even right on the outside, that you think will be a good fit for you. And I only mentioned a few schools because I didn't want to be here all day going through that. Serviced by two major airports, JFK, John F. Kennedy Airport, and LaGuardia Airport. But then there's also other smaller airports in a way, around there as well, such as Newark International Airport, which is like right over the bridge, and other little airports here and there. So, and other schools that you could look at in the New York area, which are not New York but still close. We mentioned Long Island, but then even like when you're looking at North Jersey. When you're looking at schools like Rutgers, looking at schools like Seton Hall, these are schools that are all within the New York area. So there are other schools in the area if you don't get exactly in New York City. But if you like the hustle and bustle, then you want to be in Manhattan. And that is where you're looking at the NYUs and the Columbias and things like that. Schools are very selective to get into. International aid varies. I guess it depends on your government. If there are any programs that are out there, there are other private situations out there situations meaning like scholarships and grants that you can get for international students. You just have to do your research. Then once you find it, do your own due diligence to see if this is something that is right for you. And I think that now one of the major things I see for people that decide to go to school in New York is that coming out of school, finding a job. I'm not saying it's super easy, but you're in an area where the jobs are. So, for example, if you're looking for finance jobs, I mean, you're in the heart of it. I mean, you're in the heart right there. So if you're a business major and you're looking to work on Wall Street, well, guess what? Wall Street's in Manhattan. So, there's definitely some opportunities when it comes there. I would check that out. And I'll give more information on New York.